So let's consider somebody who doesn't really question why they feel things. They feel anger, they feel greed, they feel envy, and they just sort of go through life trying to gratify these feelings, but they never question where these desires came from. So what kind of life is this? Is this happiness? Or is this relying on chasing and not feeling like they can just be? So in this video, we're going to talk about journaling, because with journaling, we're actually kind of like working on fulfilling our own purpose of achieving our own inner happiness, because we're not allowing ourselves to just mindlessly go through life. We can use journaling as an introspective exercise to go beyond these desires that we have and experience something that is much more profound, much deeper. So we're talking about journaling here. Sounds pretty simple. Oh, I'll just write some words on a page. But what are we really doing? Are we just writing words on a page, or are we exploring something that we've always strived to better understand? This becomes very profound. This is why we actually have to do a few videos on it. So the first thing is that journaling is tactical. We are doing something with our hand and physically, tactically writing. And we can't underestimate this. There's a reason why people take notes when they read books or when they go to lectures. Because what would happen? They would just forget, oh, I almost learned something, but I forgot because I also happened to have a gazillion other thoughts that day and it got lost in the mix. But this is why we call it learning from the heart. Because when people take notes, we see, this is why there are studies, that when people take notes, they better remember. Even more so than when they're typing. Because when they're writing, they're doing such a tactical, multisensory exercise. We kind of see people just regurgitating things that they've read in articles or in podcasts. I'm super guilty of this. And there's a bit of a shift when we're speaking from our own experience, because we're not speaking about a bunch of ever-changing, fleeting concepts. We're speaking from something that we know with our own consciousness. And I'm not speaking on this video because I read a bunch of articles about journaling. I'm speaking about this video because journaling is a tactical exercise that I've learned from my own multisensory experience. And when it comes to our purpose in life and better understanding ourselves so that we can go beyond these desires, being tactical means that we can really acquire that knowledge, that self-knowledge, from a much stronger level of understanding. See, if we try to understand our envy and our greed and our desires, if we don't understand that, then we're just going to keep being a slave to it. But if we can understand it, especially through something tactical that we can really understand with our heart, then that gives us much more room to go beyond it, to act in accordance with something much more profound and from a place of true happiness. This is how we can really live our lives. This is why meditation is also really important, but we're specifically talking about journaling because they can kind of work together. Meditation is exercising a very similar muscle to the consciousness that is at play with journaling. So they're very interconnected. So why do we care that journaling is creative? Why does this matter? Well, we have to think about the force at play with creativity. If we think about somebody who sculpts sculptures out of stone, there's a force that kind of guides the unveiling of the sculpture. It was always there, but if it wasn't for the creativity, this final result couldn't have been crafted. Creativity is this force. It's kind of like we have this inner river of creativity. And once we step into this river of creativity, then it just kind of guides us. And maybe it'll guide us to a very peaceful pool, a very pleasant pond. But also when we follow this river, it might lead us into the territories that we otherwise wouldn't have discovered. It might lead us into those like mucky swamps that are really crucial for us to investigate and better understand so that we can turn them into much more peaceful rivers and reservoirs of peace. But we can't do that if we're not on this river. Creativity is really the river that allows us to penetrate these depths within ourselves and transcend the parts that are undesirable, and also to better strengthen our connection to the parts of ourselves that are desirable. So that's the importance of creativity, because we cannot underestimate the level of mystical power that is at force with why is this so hard for me to say? We cannot underestimate the mystical power of the creative energy. And on this note, what is creativity? Creativity is the same force of the power, the intelligence that destroys. This is how we can actually refer to Mother Nature and all of this. Mother Nature is responsible for the forests, for the beauty, the food that we eat, for this physical body that we have. Also, Mother Nature is responsible for the destruction of it, for the forest fires that give life to what is new. And we can't create and go beyond whatever is blocking us inside if we don't use this same creative power to also destroy. So when we are in this creative flow, we are also destroying. And yes, we need to destroy the parts of ourselves, those elements of envy and greed and lust, if we really want to experience something more profound than our desires, something that is really hard to put into words, true happiness. So this is the importance of the creative energy. Journaling really helps with concentration, because we're not allowing our thoughts to just take control of us. We're being more in control of our thoughts, because when they're coming up, we're not identifying with them and getting sucked into them. Actually, what we're doing is putting them onto the page and becoming more of the owner of these thoughts, really dissecting them and being in control. A story comes to mind about this guy who was in a forest, and he's trying to find the tree of clarity. He keeps getting off track. He's like trying to follow the route, but he's going off all of these different paths until this wise sage comes over to him, and he's like, look, if you want to find the tree of clarity, I'm going to give you this notebook, and every time you have a thought that tries to get you off path, just write it down. So the guy doesn't want to do this, but he starts to do it. And he realizes every time he has a thought, he writes it down, and then he's able to stay back onto the path. And behold, he walks, writes down his thoughts that try to get him off track, and then he's able to follow the path and access the tree of clarity. And this is how he can actually experience the guidance inside of himself, because he's not constantly getting lost. So yes, journaling helps with concentration, because we're literally not allowing our thoughts to go by. We have to concentrate and be sure that we are vigilant and taking control of the thoughts. Life comes down to perspective. This is what differentiates somebody who is seeing life as this game to accomplish their material desires versus someone who is seeing life as this beautiful experience of gratitude. It comes down to perspective. And what journaling helps us do with perspective is it helps us look at our own self and how we are perceiving things. There's this Greek myth where this guy has to navigate this maze in order to kill this minotaur. But the point is, this guy gets this thread, and as he navigates the maze, which is very confusing, he unravels the thread as he tries to reach the center, which allows him, when he's trying to find his way back, he can just follow the thread, because he was unraveling it as he made his way towards the center. So this is called the thread of Ariadne in Greek mythology. And this is really what journaling allows us to do. It allows us to, instead of kind of digging a hole, not really knowing what's going on, we're unraveling this material reference to see, are we changing? Are there certain patterns that have been going on throughout my past that I haven't been aware of? And because we're kind of like logging things, we're unraveling this thread, and we can refer to it and see, do I know how I got to how I currently am right now? And if we can assess that, then we can have a much better basis for how to go forwards. What patterns we need to pay attention to, what desires or things that are unresolved that we need to better understand. This also shifts our perspectives with our problems in life, because we're going into our journal trying to understand the feelings that were at play for us. Because if we can understand, like, why was I angry, and what are my feelings, and how can I express these feelings, we're using the energy that could have gone towards feeding that anger, feeding that envy, or whatever it is. And instead, we're using it to understand, to do something creative, because to create is energy flowing. And that's a much, much better expression of the energy than, oh, I feel angry, and instead of transmuting it into something more virtuous, I'm going to feed that vice. No, journaling allows us to take that energy and transfer it into self-knowledge and better transcendence into virtue. So this is how we're kind of like, instead of problems happening and just being like, everything's bad, we're shifting it. This is a practice that is really the means for us to reframe what we're going through so that we can have a better story. And when the story in our minds changes, the life changes, because two people could be working the same job, but because they have different mental stories, one could be having the time of their life while another could just be miserably suffering. So clearly, this is a serious matter. This is not just like, oh, the cup is full now instead of half empty. So this is actually quite deep, because this is life changing. That's really what it is. When we're using this energy to shift our perspective, it's a completely different game. So I think it's only fair for me to end this video with a journaling practice. Maybe you're already journaling, maybe you're new to it, and either way it can help to explore some new ways for you to really step into a higher level of being. Because this is what we can do. If we can journal with really strong concentration and intention, then we can actually shift our level of being by going into it with maybe some low level of like frustration or whatever it is, and step out of it feeling much better. So the practice I want to recommend for this video, I have videos on other practices, but if you can just take some time whenever you're journaling to explain your ideal day. I don't recommend doing it in terms of like, I want to do this, and then I want to do that, and these are the activities that I want to do. The way you can do this practice is actually with regards to your feelings. So write it in first person in the present moment like this. I wake up. I feel completely secure. I feel, just describe the exact feelings as you go throughout your day. And you can explain what those things are that you're doing if you want to, and get a little bit more concrete. But for me, one of the things I've struggled with is feeling like this sort of confusion about what I'm going to specifically be doing. But if I can just tap into what I want my feelings to be, then it's much easier to take care of the actual material actions. So this is the practice, is that I recommend go throughout your day, play it out, but specifically focus on what the feelings are. You're not, because if you're saying like, oh, I'm going to take a shower, then what if you're feeling like irritable and confused when you get there? So we want to focus on the inward experience. That's the practice. Go throughout your day. I'm doing whatever, and I feel this. What do you feel as you go throughout the day? So that's what I recommend. And yeah, if you guys want more practices, you can freaking Google them. I also made a video to cover the basics with all this. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. If there are any other questions regarding this subject matter that you want me to go more in depth on, just let me know. And this is also along the lines of meditation and other inward processes. So, we can also go into that. Thank you guys for watching. Peace out.